There's a secret women protect more fiercely than any other. It's not their body count, it's not their past, it's not even their real intentions with you. It's something far more primitive, far more fundamental. It's the terrifying awareness of their own existential fragility. And the man who understands this, the man who actually sees it, holds a kind of power so absolute that most men never even dare to use it because they don't even know it exists. Look around you. Look at how society itself has been rearranged to hide this truth. Feminism, empowerment, female independence. This entire modern circus exists for one reason: to bury the fact that deep down, at her core, a woman knows she is fundamentally vulnerable. And I'm not talking about physical vulnerability, although that's real too. I'm talking about something much deeper: a psychological, emotional, and existential fragility. Something no amount of career success, no amount of social media validation, and no amount of strong woman statements can ever erase. And here's what they'll hate you for understanding. That fragility isn't a flaw, it's her design, it's her nature. And the moment you stop pretending it doesn't exist, the moment you stop participating in the collective lie, everything changes. Because women don't respect you for validating their illusion of strength, they despise you for it. What they truly seek, what they unconsciously crave, is the man who can see through the mask and isn't afraid of what he finds underneath. Niccolo Machiavelli, that brilliant bastard from the Italian Renaissance, understood something modern men have completely forgotten. In The Prince, Machiavelli wrote that it is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. But what Machiavelli understood, and what you need to understand, is that this wasn't cynicism. It was a cold observation of human nature. And nowhere is it more true than in the dynamics between men and women. Modern women will tell you they want equality. They'll say they want to be treated as an equal. But watch their actions, not their words. Watch who they give their body to, their time to, their devotion to. It's never the man who treats her like an equal. It's always the man who subtly, or not so subtly, reminds her of her fragility. Let me explain how this works at the deepest level. A woman lives in a constant state of existential anxiety. Her biological value is tied to a limited time window. Her fertility is finite. Her youth is temporary. Her beauty fades. And no matter how hard she tries, no matter how many degrees she collects, how much money she earns, how many countries she travels, there's a biological clock ticking inside her, reminding her every single day that her most valuable currency has an expiration date. This isn't cruelty. This is biology. This is reality. And women know it better than anyone. That's why many become emotionally unstable as they approach 30. That's why panic hits when they see men their age choosing younger women. That's why bitterness grows when they realize the men they want don't truly want them back, not in the way that matters, not permanently. She can scream all she wants about patriarchy and unfair standards, but silently, in the darkness of her own mind, she knows the truth. She knows time is her enemy. And that awareness slowly eats her alive. Now here's the power this gives you. When you understand this fragility, when you see it clearly without denial, without pretending, you stop operating from a place of neediness. You stop begging. You stop trying to prove yourself. Because you understand something she will never admit out loud. She needs you more than you need her. Not because you're better, not because you're superior, but because biological and psychological reality is structured that way. A man can have children at 50, 60, even 70. His sexual value isn't tied to youth. It's tied to status, resources, presence, and he can build those over time. In fact, if he plays his cards right, he becomes more valuable as he ages. But a woman doesn't have that luxury, and she knows it. God, she knows it. And that knowledge makes her fundamentally more fragile in the mating game. She is in a hurry, you are not. She is in panic, you shouldn't be. She's afraid of ending up alone. You, as a man, should be comfortable with solitude. But this is where most men fail miserably. Instead of recognizing this reality and operating from it, they do the exact opposite. They become the ones who beg. They become the ones who rush. They become the ones terrified of being alone. They completely reverse the natural dynamic. And when you reverse that order, you lose everything. You lose respect. You lose attraction. You become just another weak man, another needy man, another man she can manipulate. Because you've revealed something dangerous. Her approval means more to you than your own dignity. And this is where Machiavelli's second lesson comes in. He warned that men make the mistake of thinking generosity creates loyalty. But history proves the opposite. Unlimited generosity creates contempt. When you give too much, when you sacrifice too much, when you prove again and again that you'll put her needs before yours without reciprocity, you don't make her love you more. You make her respect you less. Because in her primitive mind, in that place where instinct still rules above pretty words, a man who lowers himself cannot be a man of value. A man of real value doesn't beg. A man of real value has options. A man of real value can walk away. So now let's talk about how to use this fragility. Not in the sense of abusing her, not in the sense of cruel manipulation, but in the sense of operating from truth instead of illusion. First, never, under any circumstances, act like she is your only option. Even if right now she is, never reveal it. Because the fastest way to destroy attraction isn't cheating, it's need. A woman can forgive mistakes, but she rarely respects a man who subconsciously communicates, "I can't lose you." That energy changes everything. Not because she's evil, but because human psychology reacts to scarcity and status. The brain values what feels earned, limited, and replaceable. And the moment you behave like she's rare because you have nothing else, you downgrade yourself. Here's the part most men never understand. Women don't chase love, they chase certainty of power. They want to feel that the man in front of them has a life, a mission, and an identity that existed before her and will continue after her. That's why men with options don't need to perform. Their calmness is the proof. Always maintain ambiguity. Ambiguity is not manipulation, it's self-respect with discipline. It signals that you're not negotiating your worth. In social psychology, people unconsciously test value through availability. Too available equals low demand. That's why the man who replies instantly, cancels plans for her, over-explains, over-gives, and over-validates doesn't look loyal. He looks like he has no leverage. Always keep the question alive in her mind. Could he get another woman? Because this question triggers something ancient, hypergamy logic, the biological instinct to attach to strength, stability, and status. Not money, not looks alone, but a man who can survive without her emotionally. A man who can walk away without collapsing. The answer must always be an implied yes. That implied yes is felt in boundaries, in standards, in the way you don't panic when she pulls away, in the way you don't beg when she becomes cold, in the way you don't chase closure like a weak man. Your silence becomes authority, because the moment she becomes sure you have no other options, the moment she knows she has become your only source of female validation, it's over. Attraction evaporates, respect disappears. You become her pet, not her man. Second, never let your life revolve around her, your goals, your ambitions, your purpose. Because the moment a woman becomes the center of your world, you stop being a man and become a follower. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Female attraction doesn't grow from worship. It grows from direction. Women are naturally drawn to men who are moving somewhere. Men who are building, leading, creating, hunting meaning. Not because women are selfish, but because evolution rewards attachment to strength and structure. In psychology, this is tied to status cues. People trust the man who looks like he's already winning at life. And when you abandon your mission to chase her attention, you send the loudest message possible. I have nothing better to do than you. That kills desire. Because desire needs space, it needs tension. It needs the feeling that your attention is earned, not guaranteed. Your purpose must be bigger than her, not as an insult, but as proof of masculinity. Masculinity is not loudness. Masculinity is focus. A man with purpose doesn't orbit anyone. He doesn't need permission to exist. He doesn't panic when she tests him. It must be obvious, clear, undeniable, that you have a mission that goes beyond the relationship. Because a woman doesn't want a man who lives for her. She wants a man who has a life she can enter. That's why men who stay busy, disciplined, and obsessed with their goals often attract women without trying. Because their lifestyle communicates something rare: stability plus ambition. And here's what most men miss. A woman is constantly measuring your internal hierarchy. If she feels she outranks your mission, she loses respect. Not instantly, not consciously, but slowly, like air leaking from a tire. And then one day, she wakes up and says, "I don't feel the same anymore." You'll be confused, but her biology won't be. Because here's the paradox: women, they want to be important to you, but they don't want to be the most important thing in your life. Because the man who has no world outside her becomes easy to control. He becomes emotionally negotiable. He starts tolerating disrespect. He accepts crumbs just to keep her close. And what woman respects a man she can control? They want to feel like they earned the attention of a man who has bigger things to do. Because if you have nothing more important than being with her, if your life is so empty that she becomes the center of everything, then what kind of man are you really? A man without purpose, a man without value, a man she can control. Third, and this is crucial, always maintain a level of unpredictability. A woman who can predict you completely, who knows exactly how you'll react, what you'll say, what you'll do, is a woman who will get bored. And boredom in a woman is death for attraction. Because the female brain doesn't bond only through comfort, it bonds through emotional stimulation. In neuroscience, dopamine is heavily linked to novelty and uncertainty. That's why gambling addictions exist. That's why people obsess over what they can't fully read. The same chemical system operates in attraction. Mystery creates mental fixation. When she knows you too well, when your reactions become automatic, you stop feeling like a man and start feeling like a routine. And routine is not romance. Routine is security. Security is good, but security alone is not exciting. This is why nice guys lose. Not because kindness is bad, but because they become predictable servants. They always reply the same. They always forgive the same. They always show up the same. They always react the same. And once a woman can map you like a textbook, the thrill is gone. She doesn't have to earn you. She doesn't have to fight for your attention. And her mind gets quiet. That's the real killer. A quiet female mind is a detached female heart. Niccolo Machiavelli understood that power lives in keeping others guessing. Because power isn't only money or muscles, power is uncertainty control. The man who controls uncertainty controls emotion. And the man who controls emotion controls attachment. Apply that, but understand something important. Unpredictability doesn't mean toxic games. It means you are not an open book. It means your emotions are not easily hackable. It means your attention is not cheap. It means your behavior is guided by standards, not by her mood. Be warm one day, distant the next. Be generous in one moment, reserved in another. Not like a clown trying to confuse her, but like a man whose life is genuinely full. Sometimes you're warm because you feel it. Sometimes you're distant because you're focused. Sometimes you're generous because she earned it. Sometimes you're reserved because you respect yourself. That becomes addictive because she can't solve you. She can't fully predict the reward. And that triggers the strongest form of attachment, intermittent reinforcement. The same psychological pattern that makes people obsess over someone who gives love in doses, not floods, not in an obvious, calculated way, but in a natural, organic way. Keep the attention, keep the question alive. Because the question is what keeps her mind orbiting around you. Now here's where it gets truly deep. A woman's fatal fragility isn't only about age and fertility, it's about identity. The modern woman has been fed a massive lie. She's been told she can have it all: career, family, sexual freedom, security, adventure, all at the same time. No consequences, no trade-offs. And when she discovers that's impossible, when she crashes into the cold, hard wall of reality, something inside her breaks. She panics. She becomes reactive. She becomes bitter. And here's your advantage. While other men try to save her from this crisis, while other men validate her illusions and tell her, yes, you can have it all, the problem is the world, not you. You stay silent. You observe. You let reality do the work. Because you can't save someone from the truth. And the truth is simple. Choices have consequences. The woman who spends her 20s chasing validation on Instagram, collecting casual sexual partners, prioritizing career over building a family, will reach her 30s and discover something terrifying. She will discover that the high-value men she wants no longer want her, not as a wife, not as the mother of their children, maybe as temporary fun, but not as a life partner. And when that happens, when her fragility becomes impossible to ignore, she'll desperately search for someone to validate her, someone to tell her it's not too late, that she still has value, that she can still get the man she deserves. And most men, pathetic in their need to be accepted, will give her that validation. But not you, because you understand something deeper. What she truly respects isn't the man who validates her, but the man who holds his standards. The man who can look her in the eyes and say, implicitly or explicitly, "You're not what I'm looking for." That man, that rare man, the man who doesn't lower himself, who doesn't compromise his vision just because he fears being alone, is the man she will remember. That is the man she will obsess over, because you reminded her of something she forgot. Her value is not unconditional. She has to earn it. The world owes her nothing. Machiavelli wrote that a prince must learn how not to be good when the situation requires it. That shocks moralists. But he wasn't talking about pointless cruelty. He was talking about the willingness to do what's difficult, unpopular, necessary, even when it makes you the villain in someone else's story. And that applies directly to how you handle women. There will be moments when the correct decision, the decision that keeps you in your power, is to say no, to walk away, to let her suffer the consequences of her own decisions without rescuing her. And she will hate you for it. She'll call you selfish, cruel, insensitive. But underneath the hate, underneath the accusations, there will be respect. Because she finally found a man who doesn't bend. A man who doesn't betray his own standards for the privilege of her company. A man who understands that his greatest power isn't in what he gives her, but in what he is willing to deny her. Now let's talk about something nobody mentions. A woman's fragility shows itself most powerfully in her relationship with other women. Watch how they interact, watch the constant competition, the subtle social games, the backstabs disguised as concern. A woman may say she supports other women, but watch what happens when one of them succeeds. When one finds a high-value man, when one woman looks better than the rest, the mask falls. The poison comes out. Because deep down, every woman knows she's competing with every other woman. And that competition is fierce, brutal, relentless. And here's the secret you can use. Never get involved in her drama with other women. Never take sides, never participate in gossip. Stay above it. Because when you do that, when you show that this level of interaction is beneath you, you raise your value. You become the calm place, the refuge, the space free from feminine toxicity. And that is insanely attractive to her. Not because you care about her drama, but because you proved it doesn't affect you. That your world is bigger than her small social wars. Now here's another layer. A woman's fragility intensifies exponentially in the presence of younger, more attractive women. Take her to a place where there are 20-year-old women looking incredible and watch how her behavior changes. Watch the insecurity rise. Watch how she starts searching for your validation more desperately. Watch how she becomes more sexual, more pleasing, more nervous. And here's your power. Don't give her that validation immediately. Let her feel the competition. Let her feel the insecurity, not in a cruel way. Don't obviously flirt with other women in front of her, but don't instantly reassure her either. Let the feeling sit. Because that feeling, that insecurity, that awareness that she could lose you, is what keeps attraction alive. And the fourth and final lesson from Niccolo Machiavelli. You need to carve into your mind is this. The end justifies the means, but only if you understand what the end is. The end isn't sleeping with more women. The end isn't revenge against women. The end isn't proving something to yourself or to others. The end is building a life so powerful, so full of purpose, so undeniably valuable that women become a pleasant addition, not an existential need. That is the real end. And every tactic, every strategy, every move you use must serve that goal, not the other way around. Because here's the final truth most men never understand. A woman's fragility only has power over you if you are fragile too. If your sense of worth depends on her approval. If your happiness is tied to her presence. If your identity is built around being her man. But if you do the brutal work of building yourself, facing your own shadow, developing a purpose that transcends female validation, then her fragility becomes just information. Information you can use with compassion, but without sentimentality. With understanding, but without weakness. A woman wants to believe she's strong, independent, that she doesn't need you. Let her believe that. Let her proclaim it on social media. Let her repeat it like a mantra. Because while she spends energy trying to convince herself of something that isn't true, you simply build. You build your value. You build your life. You build your empire, whether it's big or small. And when she finally crashes into the reality of her own fragility, when the world reminds her that strong woman declarations don't change biology, don't erase her fundamental need for security, protection, and purpose, the kind of stability only a man can provide, you'll be there. Not begging, not chasing, just existing as the option she desires but can't manipulate. And here's the beautiful part. When you operate from this level of deep understanding, when you see female fragility without judging it, but also without refusing to use it strategically, something interesting happens. You stop hating women. You stop being bitter, because you realize they aren't the enemy. They're simply players in the same evolutionary game as you, doing the best they can with the cards nature gave them. And those cards include a fundamental fragility that no amount of modern feminism can erase. So the question isn't whether you will use this fragility. The question is whether you'll do it consciously or unconsciously, from a place of power or from a place of neediness, to build something meaningful or just to feed your ego. Because here's the truth nobody will tell you. Every relationship between a man and a woman is a power game. It always has been. It always will be. The only question is who understands the game better, who is willing to play without pretending it isn't a game, who has the courage to see reality as it is, not as they wish it were. The woman who crosses your path, who catches your attention, who awakens something inside you, she is playing too. She is calculating too. She is measuring your value, evaluating your options, determining what she can get from you. Not because she's evil, but because that's what evolution programmed her to do. And if you enter that game without understanding the rules, without understanding the fundamental fragility behind her decisions, you've already lost. But now you know. Now you understand. Fragility is not weakness you're supposed to attack. It's reality you must recognize and navigate with intelligence. It's the structure you build on to create relationships where you maintain the power, where you set the terms, where you are the prize, not the chaser. And when you reach that place, when you finally understand that her fragility means she needs your strength more than you need her approval, everything changes. You go from the man who waits to be chosen to the man who chooses, from the man who fears losing her to the man who's comfortable walking away, from the man who begs for attention to the man whose attention is the reward. And that shift, that fundamental reversal of the dynamic, is what separates the men who spend their lives chasing scraps of female validation from the men who build lives so powerful that women compete to be part of them. So if you made it this far, if these words hit something deep inside you, if you felt that uncomfortable recognition of truths you already knew but couldn't put into words, then now it's your turn to act. Don't let this be just another video you consume and forget. Hit like. Share this with another man who needs to wake up. Subscribe, because this is only the beginning. We're building something bigger here. We're awakening a generation of men who refuse to live on their knees. Your participation isn't just support for us, it's a vote for your own transformation. It's a commitment to stop being the man who pretends reality doesn't exist and become the man who masters it. Do it now, because what comes next will destroy everything you thought you knew about the game between men and women.